This is Brett of the Brook Bush Institute at the Independent Training Spot, and today we're doing a deadlift with a posterior pull. That is, I'm mushing together two techniques here. We're doing a posterior pull to increase hip thrust and glute activation with a very standard strength exercise, the deadlift. I know a lot of you guys are working on your deadlift strength and use deadlifts to work on strength and hypertrophy gains and potentially sports performance. I'm going to have my friend Melissa come out. She's going to help me demonstrate. Now, to start off, you guys do need a monster band hooked up to something very stable. These bands, they pull with a good amount of force. We're using a lightweight band just for demonstration purposes, and I think it's still 20 to 30 pounds of resistance. So if Melissa steps out, I think the first thing you guys will notice, all right, is she's got a little bit of a forward lean just to keep the band from pulling her back onto her butt. All right, so what she's got to do to get that forward lean is already activate her tibialis anterior and then keep her glutes real tight. Otherwise, she'll just end up bending over at the hips. Now, the reason we use this band is all about glute activity. Unfortunately, what I see during deadlifts, the common compensation pattern for extension is, go ahead and bend over for me, Melissa, is we see this thing that she's already started into, right, which is head extension, which then gets some of our erector spinae fired up. We see lumbar extension, and then as she pulls, she goes ahead and arches back with her back. And usually when you ask somebody where they feel that, they say hamstrings and low back. Okay, the hamstrings and low back should be working in this exercise. Your erector spinae isometrically, and of course your biceps femoris is a synergist. But the largest muscle group on your body, not just somebody's, everybody's, is your glute max. So the more I can drive glute max activity, the better deadlift performance is going to get in the long term. So I'm going to have her go ahead and try this again. We're not going to lift the bar this time. All right? She's going to go down, make sure that she keeps her head down so that she doesn't activate that erector spinae, the longissimus that starts up in her cervical spine. And all I'm going to have her do is thrust her hips forward as she comes up. And where did you feel it that time? Glutes, right? I know it's a little derogatory, but I'll even give the cue, guys, hump the bar, right? You want to thrust your hips forward. As soon as you do that, you can feel your glutes become very active. So now let's try this with the deadlift here. Nice. So nice and slow on the way down. Good. I don't want you touching the ground. I want you to have to work for that amortization phase. I want you to have to work to decelerate and then squeeze your glutes and thrust forward. Now, make sure you guys start with a light weight. The sway in your balance, the fact that you have to lean forward against this band, does make it a little bit of a balance issue the first few times you do it. This isn't a particularly heavy deadlift for Melissa, so I know she's doing this just fine. Where are you feeling it though? You feel like it's helping you get more glute activity on that deadlift?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. You can go ahead and relax for a second. Now, why would I do this? Why would I use this? Well, three big reasons. A, more glute activity. If I want to train somebody for more glute activity, this is a great exercise in that integration section of their corrective exercise or rehab program. Right? Or I can add this exercise to their strength training program. Maybe this is their lower body exercise while we're working on getting more glute activity. We could also just be trying to add resistance, depending on what gym you're at. If you're at a home gym, maybe you don't have a whole lot of weight to go up on. It's amazing how you go to like a 40-pound band and your deadlifts feel a lot harder without having to add a whole lot more weight to the bar. This might have a couple very practical uses, like what if somebody has a history of low back pain? Well, now I can resist their glutes without putting more load on their lumbar spine. What about you guys who have grip strength issues? And this one always bothered me. People go, I have grip strength issues, so what do? They grab wrist wraps, which all of a sudden takes your grip strength down to nothing. You've now decided that I'm not going to try to get stronger grips or stronger grip strength. I'm just going to forget about grip strength altogether. Well, instead of doing that, if you want to increase your deadlift resistance, keep working without your wrist wraps and add the resistance here instead. And then of course, the very sophisticated use for it is every once in a while we have an individual with an inadequate forward lean. This is a fairly rare compensation pattern, but every once in a while we see that person who they have to keep their back up straight when they squat. Usually these are individuals with lumbar spine pathology or a history of lumbar spine pathology. They won't bend over this way. Right? The big compensation pattern there is we have synergistic dominance of our deep longitudinal subsystem, and our glute max is lacking eccentric control. So those people who are straight up like this, it's not that they can't do it, they won't do this. So we need to start training them to do this and using their glutes. Melissa, go ahead and step forward. This is a great way to start integrating that pattern back. If I ask her to draw in and then bend over, she's going to be kind of cued by this band to bend around the band, and I can put an object on the floor and just make this very functional, like it could be a kettlebell or it could just be something like their purse or their handbag or their backpack, and then what I'm going to have her do is squeeze her glutes and thrust on the way up. Go ahead and do that for me 20 times. All right, so maybe I do 12 to 20 repetitions, and this becomes part of the neuromuscular re-education section of their rehab or corrective exercise program. Of course, we don't have to use just barbells. Too few people do dumbbell deadlifts, I think. Dumbbell deadlifts are very challenging, and Melissa does not look like she's worked hard enough in this video. So let's go ahead and have her do a few more for you guys as we just go over the form cues one more time. We got a band that is waist height anchored to something very stable. She's going to put that band around her ASIS. She should take a couple seconds to gain her balance. Make sure she's got that little forward lean and her glutes are tight against that band. Maybe give me a couple little thrusts against that band so that she's nice and comfortable before she picks up the dumbbells. Now she's going to pick up the dumbbells, get herself into position, all right, and thrust with her hips. Let's see 10 of those. A little slower on the way down. Lots of glute activity. Guys, this is a great modification. You really got to try it. I was shocked at how well it works. This is the deadlift with posterior pull for increased glute activation, increased load, and increased neuromuscular re-education for those with an inadequate forward lean. Look forward to talking to you soon.